Now there are a lot of advantages to shooting in a flat color profile. It makes color grading a lot easier, you get much more dynamic range. I mean, there's just so many advantages. And if you color grade flat color profile footage properly, then it can actually turn out to look really good. And today I'm going to show you how you can properly color grade flat color profile footage. Okay, so basically I'm going to divide this tutorial into 3 parts: color correction, adding contrast and saturation, and color grading. So let's kick things off with color correction. First of all, you want to find a reference point on your timeline, which you can use to color grade your image. Next, we want to start off by adjusting white balance. Now we can use these sliders right here to adjust white balance, or we can use this eyedropper tool and click it on any white portion of our footage, and it'll automatically adjust the white balance. Next, we want to adjust the exposure. So this shot right here is seriously overexposed. Like, if you look at the highlights, it's all blown out. Even if you look at the lumetri scopes here, the whites are just way up high. So we can try to adjust the exposure by decreasing the exposure a bit. We're probably not going to be able to get a lot out of this image since it's extremely overexposed, but let's try our best. Now let's move on to adding contrast and saturation. So first of all, you want to click on the contrast slider and you want to increase the contrast a bit. Next, I'm going to lower down the shadows to make it a bit deeper. Now I'm also going to bump up the highlights a bit to give it even more contrast. But I'm going to make sure that I don't bump up the highlights too much since the image is already overexposed. And I'm also going to decrease the blacks a bit. Now we want to add some saturation. Now if you go into the creative panel in the lumetri color tab, you'll find that there's 2 sliders which you can use to adjust the saturation: vibrance and saturation. Now I'd recommend you to use vibrance because vibrance is just a more subtle version of saturation, and you just have a bit more control over how saturated your image is, and it's just not as extreme as saturation. So you want to use vibrance in this case, and in this case the image is very flat, so we're going to increase the vibrance by a lot, so something like 80 or 85 or something like that. So we're done with adding contrast and saturation. Now let's move on to color grading. So this is where you can sort of get creative and add your own elements into the image. So you can work with curves here and make the image cooler or warmer, and then play around with the color wheel. So I'm gonna give it sort of like a teal and orange sort of a look. But yeah, in this part you just want to get creative and sort of just do what you want with the footage and just see what works fine. So now let's take a look at what we've done. Okay, so I hope you guys liked this tutorial. If you did, give this video a like and make sure you subscribe to my channel.